Hello students, so now I'm back with deep water for class 12th. So we have already read in first and second video that Douglas was thrown into water and he planned to come out. 3 times he tried to work according to that plan, that he would be touching the bottom, taking a big jump, coming out of water, lying flat on the surface of water, and then he will paddle to the edge of the pool. But he could not do it. And ultimately, in the third attempt, he was so tired that he accepted his approaching death. And he closed his eyes and he let himself float in the water. But after that, when he opened his eyes, he was out of water. Okay, and he was saved. But after that incident, he never went back to that pool, or he never went back to learn swimming. Okay, now we are starting from page number 27, last paragraph. A few years later, when I came to know the waters of the Cascades. Now Cascades is waterfall actually. So when he saw people enjoying under the waterfall, now he also wanted to go in the water or go near the water. Okay, but he had that fear. So when I came to know the waters of the Cascades, I wanted to get into them. And whenever I did, whether I was wading the Teton or bumping river or bathing in warm lake of the Goat Rocks, actually these are the names of the water bodies, and especially warm lake of the Goat Boats, we can say this is popular for camping. Okay, people especially go for camping and fishing. So he said, I tried my best to go to the different water bodies and enjoy and maybe try to face my fear. The terror that had seized me in the pool would come back. It would take possession of me completely. Means whenever he was in water, every time the memory of that YMCA pool incident would come back and he would be terrified. My legs would become paralyzed. Icy horror would grab my heart. Means he tried his best to be there in water, but every time maybe he could never enjoy, because every time the terror would come back, the fear would come back. This handicap stayed with me as the years rolled by. So many years this handicap, this fear was with him, and that's why he could not enjoy water games. In canoes, so canoes are small boats. In canoes on main lakes, this is the US state. Okay, so there in the lakes he tried to go in the small boats, but even then, though he would be in the boat, even then he would be having that fear to fall in water and then maybe he may die. This kind of fear would come back. So in canoes on main lake, fishing for landlocked salmon. Now these are actually name of the fish, different fish. Okay, so we can say landlocked salmon is we can say Atlantic fish. Okay, so whenever he said that I went for fishing, then bass fishing, this is again bass is name of fish. In New Hampshire, again this is US state. Okay, trout fishing on the Deschutes and Metales in Oregon. So all these are the places, water bodies, and all these are the names of the fish. So he went for maybe Deschutes, he went for trout fishing, but every time he would be getting that fear. Fishing for salmon on the Columbia, at Bumping Lake in the Cascades, wherever I went, the haunting fear of the water followed me. Now, when you are preparing this chapter for the boards, learn few names of water bodies, few names of fish. Okay, so whatever you learn, you will be able to fetch good marks. Okay, try it. Not all the names and all the places, but even then, you should know certain names of the fish and the places. It ruined my fishing trips, deprived me of the joy of canoeing, boating and swimming. Underline. So he wanted to enjoy like other people. Okay, he could never enjoy canoeing, means going in the small boats, or boating with big boat with other people, and then swimming. He tried his best to be in water. Okay, but even then He said, I could never enjoy though I was in the water. So ultimately, he decided something. I used every way I knew to overcome this fear, but it held me firmly in its grip. Finally, one October, I decided to get an instructor and learn to swim. So ultimately, after few years of his, we can say, though he tried to overcome his fear on his own, but when ultimately he found that no, it is not possible, so then only he decided that he should learn swimming in a proper way so that he is not having any fear of drowning in water. So one October, I decided to get an instructor and learn to swim. I went to a pool and practiced 5 days a week, an hour each day. Now with the instructor, under the instructions of the instructor, now he started going and practicing in water. The instructor put a belt around me. A rope attached to the belt went through a pulley that ran on an overhead cable. He held on the end of the rope. Now what happened? How he was now learning? He was learning maybe in the open water, but every time whenever he was in water, he would get back that fear of drowning in water. So instructor devised a plan. What he did, he took a rope, and one side of the rope this instructor would be having in his hand, and the other side it will go through a pulley, and the other side would be attached to the belt of this William Douglas. And now what would happen? From this side, this instructor will loosen its grip, and on the other side, William Douglas will go in water. Okay, and then he will be practicing over there. And whenever he would be having any fear, he would give this indication to the instructor, and the instructor will pull him out of the water. So now this is how, because this way this William will not be having any fear of drowning in the water, because other end of the rope is in the hands of the instructor and he will be saved by the instructor. So this is how now he started practicing. He held on to the end of the rope, and we went back and forth across the pool, hour after hour, day after day, week after week. So for many weeks he practiced this way only. On each trip across the pool, a bit of panic seized me. Each time the instructor relaxed his hold on the rope and I went under, some of the old terror returned and my legs froze. So every time he said, initially this happened that from this side he will loosen his grip, okay, he will relax the grip, and then on the other side William Douglas will go into the water. He said maybe for a few seconds the fear would come, but then he would overcome this fear, because he would be telling himself that don't worry, other side with the rope is in the hands of the instructor, and he will not, he will always be there to save him. So it was 3 months before the tension began to slack. So this practice he did for 3 months with that one side of the rope in the hands of the instructor, this way. Then he taught me to put my face underwater and exhale, and to raise my nose and inhale. I repeated the exercise hundreds of times. Bit by bit, I shed part of the panic that seized me when my head went underwater. So he said, naturally, whenever I was underwater, my head would be underwater, I would be getting that fear of drowning. But then, bit by bit, I was able to overcome this fear. Then, when he learned this inhaling and exhaling, next he held me at the side of the pool and had me kick with my legs. For weeks, I did just that. Now he learned how to kick his legs, means how to use his limbs. At first, my legs refused to work, but they gradually relaxed, and finally I could command them. Thus, piece by piece, he built a swimmer. Piece by piece, he built a swimmer, which means everything he learned separately, and ultimately one day he was able to say, yes, I have learned swimming, because he was able to integrate all these things, and then he was able to swim freely in water. So piece by piece, he built a swimmer. And when he had perfected each piece, he put them together into an integrated whole. In April, he said, now you can swim. Dive off and swim the length of the pool. Crawl and stroke. Now, he had hired this instructor in October. So from October to April, the instructor was teaching him, and in April only, this instructor He was that much confirmed that this boy, this William Douglas, now is a good swimmer and he has learned this art of swimming. And that's why one day in April month, he told this Douglas that go jump in the water and just show me what you have learned. I did. The instructor was finished. Instructor was finished, underline. Instructor was finished here means instructor's job was finished. He said it was kind of test only. And maybe he was, we can say he came out with flying colors because the instructor was very happy. He said, I think now my job is over. You are a good swimmer now. But I was not finished. Though the instructor said my job is over, and maybe after that he stopped coming, for the practice session with William Douglas. But now William Douglas, he himself was not that much convinced. He was still having doubts that is it that I'm really able to swim, in the water without any fear. I still wondered if I would be terror stricken when I was alone in the pool. I tried it. I swam the length up and down. Tiny vestiges of the old terror would return. Tiny vestiges means you can say small remains. Means whenever maybe he practiced under the instruction of this instructor. He was a good swimmer then, but now he himself was doubtful whether when he's all alone he would be able to swim that way, that smooth or not, because whenever he was in water, naturally now he was all alone, he was not having any instructor. So whenever he was in water, he said that sometime I felt that small remains of that fear would come to me. Tiny vestiges of the old terror would return, but now I could frown and say to that terror, trying to scare me, "Hi, well, here's to you, look." And off I would go for another length of the pool. But now he said that yes, I was that much confident that whenever I was in water and whenever I would get back that fear, I would be able to look into the eyes of the fear and I would be able to say, yes, you are here to, now trying to make me afraid of you. No, I'm not afraid now anymore. And he said, I would jump into the water, swim and show my fear, see, I can overcome you. So there is this way. This went on until July. So in the same pool where he was practicing with the instructor. So April only month when instructor said my job is over, but from April to July, he all alone practiced. So this went on until July. But I was still not satisfied. Though maybe every time he was able to look into the eyes of fear, but still he said, I was not satisfied with myself. I was not sure that all the terror had left, so I went to Lake Wentworth in New Hampshire. Now he changed the places. Now he changed the water bodies. Now he went to another lake, in we can say Wentworth in New Hampshire, and there he wanted to test himself. So I went to Lake Wentworth in New Hampshire, dived off a dock at Triggs Island. So now different water bodies near different islands. He went over there, and there only he swam. He wanted to see that whether he is able to swim without any fear or not. So dived off a dock at Triggs Island and went and swam 2 miles across the lake to Stamp at Island. So all these names are island names. So you can learn 1 or 2 names also. I swam the crawl, breaststroke, side stroke and backstroke. So these strategies, these names with spelling you can learn. Only once did the terror return, when I was in the middle of the lake. So he said when I went over there, maybe near Stamp Act Island or wherever, he said once only when I was in the middle of the water, in the middle of the lake, when the edges were far away, from me, in the middle only, once only I got that fear. I put my face under and saw nothing but bottomless water. The old sensation returned in miniature. So again, in very miniature form, this old sensation means that fear came. It's not very big fear where he fainted. No, only small fear, maybe little bit fear came. And what he said? He said, I laughed and said, well, Mr. Terror, what do you think you can do to me? It fled and I swam on. He said, maybe little bit fear came and again I was able to look into the eyes of the fear. I said, hey, Mr. Terror, you are trying to make me afraid? No, there is no fear now in me anymore. And then he said, I continued swimming. and maybe then after that, fear never returned back. Now, fear knew it very well that this Douglas is not that Douglas. Okay, yet I had residual doubts. Though this fear never came back, still he said maybe I had some doubt somewhere that is it this is surface level thing that I am no more afraid or really I am not afraid. So I had residual doubts. At my first opportunity, I hurried west, went up the Teton to Conrad Meadows, up the Conrad Creek Trail to Meadow Glacier, and camped in the high meadow by the side of the warm lake. Now he went to this is we can say Florida area. Okay, so he said that now I went to Meadow Glacier. Okay, I went to first of all Teton and then from Teton to Conrad. Okay, then meadows up the Conrad Creek to trail Meadow Glacier and camped in the high meadow by the side of the warm lake. The next morning I slipped, dived into the lake and swam across to the other shore and back, just as Douge Corcoran used to do. So he was a great swimmer. So I shouted with joy, and Gilbert Peak returned the echo. I had conquered my fear of water. He said, ultimately, when here in Warm Lake, I was able to swim without any fear. He said, now I knew that yes, I had overcome my fear. Okay, ultimately. So I had conquered my fear. The experience had a deep meaning for me, as only those who have known stark terror and conquered it can appreciate. He said, this experience of overcoming my fear, okay, it had deep meaning for me, and maybe those people who have had this kind of experience, they can understand this very well and conquered it can appreciate. In death there is peace. There is terror only in the fear of death. Now he says this is what maybe very deep philosophy I understood, that when you die there is only peace. Where is the fear? Fear is only in thinking about the death. So it means if you are ultimately ready to embrace death, maybe you will be no more fearful. Okay, so Roosevelt, there is terror only in the fear of death, as Roosevelt knew when he said, all we have to fear is fear itself. Means if you are to be afraid of something and you want to be away from that, then why not to take it as fear itself? Means better you be afraid of fear, because when you are afraid of something, okay, you remain away from that. So it is better if you be afraid of fear. It means you will be always away from fear. When you are away from fear, it means you are brave. Okay, so he said, this is what then I learned, because I had experienced both the sensation of dying and the terror that fear of it can produce. The will to live somehow grew in intensity. So naturally, when YMCA pool experience happened, at that time only maybe he had seen that fear, that what emotion you have when you feel that yes, that you are very near to the death. He said, I had experienced everything and I knew the happiness of being alive also after that. At last I felt released, free to walk the trails and climb the peaks and to brush aside fear. He said, after this only, then there was no more fear, okay, in my life. I was not now afraid of water, and I was happy that I had overcome this fear of water. So this is very beautiful chapter. Read it thoroughly, okay, because maybe subtly you are going to get some question from this chapter. The chances are even of, we can say, RTC also. So read the chapter, and when you the thing would be that you hear these videos first of all, read with me, and then read yourself also. You will have better understanding. Thank you.